Hello everyone, Shannon Flummerfeld here for Flip Schools. Welcome to the Understanding Instruction series. This video is one in a series of 5, and this one's set up for faculty. And I'd like to just talk a little bit about how faculty can use metrics to understand instruction. Well, you probably have heard the word metrics used a lot and data-driven decision-making used a lot and so on. So that's really what we're going to focus on here, is just a quick discussion about how metrics can be used. Basically, metrics are short numerical or narrative descriptions of a shared goal or a shared objective of a desired target condition that measures actions of value over a period of time. So what you'd be looking for as a classroom teacher, and especially if you're looking at flipping your classroom, you want to make sure that you have some metrics in place that are understood by you and your students, administrators in your building, other faculty members and parents, whoever you think it's important to have the shared goal or objective with. And then what happens is that you can use that metric to begin to look at what you're actually trying to achieve in your flipped classroom to see if you hit that target condition. And what a metric will do is help you to kind of keep track of that journey and help you to understand if something of value is happening or if something needs to be improved. So for instance, metrics are represented in these following target conditions here. Let's say that you would say that, I'm going to flip my classroom, and what I want to see happen is that I want to see that student engagement will increase by 50% to improve student achievement by the end of the marking period. So again, you take a look at this, and this would be a target condition, and it's stated as a metric because, we can actually get our arms around this, understand it. It's maybe something that you might be familiar with, like a SMART goal, something that's succinct, measurable, actionable, relevant, and very much like a targeted condition that we understand. So another example would be, for instance, you might flip your classroom and say, you know what, I really want to make sure that I understand, we have this targeted condition we're trying to get to, and all the people involved in this learning experience, key stakeholders, understand this as a shared goal. Let me state it as a metric, that way I can understand whether or not this is creating value over time. So another example would be student collaboration will increase to high quality to contribute to positive classroom culture throughout the year and to decrease student behavior problems by 80%. Okay? So again, a metric is very helpful in terms of understanding what's happening in instruction and really creating this as a shared measure of performance for the learning community which you are in charge of in your classroom. Here's another example. Student project-based learning will support the success of authentic learning and authentic assessment incidents. Again, you'll see there's some differences in these statements. Some of them are more numerically oriented. Some of them are a little more narrative. But the idea here is you're trying to get from one point to an improved state, a targeted condition. And so these are all things, for instance, that if you're just starting to flip your classroom, and there could be any number of things that you might want to use a metric for, but it will really help you to keep track of what's happening and to help everybody to be able to celebrate and understand where there is value being created. Now, the nice thing about metrics, and the thing that's fun about metrics, is that you can set this up in your classroom as a shared goal. And you can also create some visual management tools to go along with it. So, for instance, you could in your classroom set up a data wall, for instance, that would take any one of these examples and just through some kind of an easy-to-follow visual mental model of what's happening with this targeted condition, you can chart it out. So it really makes it fun and interesting for students. And it also takes the flipped classroom and helps it from being just like a gimmick to really helping you and your students and the learning community there think about fundamentally what is the impact of this. And it can help you to also understand where improvement might be needed. So for instance, here's a first example. You could create a data wall and let's say that you are trying to work with this target condition. Students understand it. It's a shared goal in your classroom. So you're trying to say, we want to see student engagement increased by 50% so that student achievement is improved by the end of the period. So let's say that here you are now and you have a classroom and you've got math going on in your classroom, you've got reading going on in your classroom, and so you're measuring that achievement as you're measuring student engagement increasing. And so if you see that, for instance, student engagement goes from below 5% to above 10%, you've experienced a 50% increase, and you're seeing also that that's tracking along with student achievement. A simple visual diagram like this can really help to create a lot of excitement around the way that metrics can be used in a classroom, and especially in a flipped environment. Here's another example of how to use metrics. This is the student collaboration example. What you're looking for here is you want student collaboration to increase to high qualities, to a high quality, and again, that's kind of a descriptive term here, what we would call a qualitative term, in order to contribute to positive classroom culture throughout the year. And we want to see student behavior problems decreasing by 80%. So here's a quick visual tool that you could use. These are like counterpoints, right? So student behavior problems are going down, and we're seeing that the referrals are decreasing each month: September, October, November, December, 5% all the way down to 11%. So each month you're making big gains in behavioral problems. And then you're seeing in the classroom that collaboration is in fact increasing. And you see it in some of the projects that are coming out, where students are understanding how they have responsibility also for the culture in the classroom. And maybe they have selected some rules that they think everyone should follow, or some type of governance culture begins to get established. You might see in October another collaboration piece come in where there's the use of learning conversations. You might see in November that as a class, once a week there's a quick meeting to say what went well this week, what can we do better next week, something called a Kaizen technique. Or you might begin to see in December where you're beginning to see diversity projects emerging and lots of appreciation for how that impacts the positive classroom culture. So again, this is just another example as to how to create a visual diagram of a metric and make it become really real in your classroom. Here's another one. Let's say that you want to go ahead and track maybe for 2 different student groups or for 2 different classrooms or something, how student project-based learning supports authentic learning and authentic assessment. So what we're doing here is we're looking at authentic learning incidents for September, October, November, and we're tracking them against authentic assessment that's used for September, October, November. Again, just a really quick way to create a nice data wall so that everybody can actually really share in this goal in your classroom. And these kinds of techniques, the use of metrics to be able to understand instruction and create a really functional learning community, are just easy things to do, and they're also a lot of fun. I hope you'll find them useful in the flipped classroom environment. If you'd like more information, you can go to the Flip Institute website at theflipinstitute.com. Thanks for listening, and I hope you enjoyed the video.